I just recently, just this week, finished a program in product management. So it was really a mentoring and training program in that area. And the important thing just to share with you on this is that I learned about the Boost program through the training that I joined. So it was eye-opening that I had to learn about scholarships after I found a program that I was interested in. So what I want to do is bring to the group and bring to our community this idea of there is support out there. There are scholarships. And so we're bringing this information to you so that you have that information ahead of time so that you can choose and pick any of the learnings that make sense for you even before you go into those learnings. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share with you just a little bit of an introduction. If I can't get my slides, because just tell you a little bit about Women in Digital Switzerland and also share with you our amazing team. So we are a group that was founded in 2013 by 3 amazing women, Taisa, Natasha, and Kelly. And so they brought our organization forward with a mission to bring women into the future in the areas of digital leadership, and so that we have a network and a skill set that makes sense as we evolve into the careers of tomorrow. And so with that in mind, we have grown. So we started off with a very small team. We've grown to a team and a community of more than 6,000 across Switzerland. And we primarily work with women who are in digital transformation, digital marketing, as well as innovation and entrepreneurship. Course, there are other areas, and we invite everyone. But this is what we do, and we're really pleased to have you, Mattia, today. And I apologize, I would actually share with you a little bit more with the community, but I think I have to put myself on mute. There's a lot of background noise. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you in the chat just a little bit of a quick survey. If you could help us out at every meetup we have, we like to be able to gather your thoughts on your needs. And so without much more introduction to Women in Digital Switzerland, I want to thank you for being here with us. And thank you, Simone. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Jeanette, everyone else here who is Viviana, and everyone else who is representing Women in Digital Switzerland today. Yes, Simone, if you could take over for me,
okay,
getting some,
yes, I thought you
some background.
Introduce Mattia, but okay. Yes, so thank you, Karen, for the intro. We did not see your slides, but that's okay. Please follow us on LinkedIn. You will always get the news of our upcoming events. And I would like to give the floor to Mattia, who has kindly agreed to present the program and scholarships they have today from Digital Switzerland. So the floor is yours, Mattia.
Thank you very much, Simone. And yeah, thank you, Simone and Karen, for inviting me here. I'm really glad to be speaking to you, and I appreciate every opportunity to speak about the Boost program because I believe it's really a great win-win. It makes total sense to learn about it and to spread the word, and I'm happy to do that here. I will share my screen. Give me just a second. Can you all see and hear me? Excellent. Yes, again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I will be speaking today to you about 2 things, essentially. One is the Boost program itself, what it is, what the purpose is, and how you can get involved. But also, I'll open up a little bit more the topic into future of work and also future of workforce in Switzerland, since in my particular portfolio that I work in, we talk a lot and we work a lot on these subjects. So that's why I put that in brackets there. How am I going to structure today's presentation? I will basically follow the 3 why or the 3 W questions rather, and then end on a fourth. So I'll be starting with who is it that is speaking to you today, and who do I represent? What is Digital Switzerland? How are we structured? I'm not going to bore you too much with governance and all that stuff, but just a little bit to know what our organization does and how it's structured. Then I will move into the question of why do we as Digital Switzerland engage in lifelong learning? Why is it a priority for us? And you will see within that why there's a lot of reasons having to do with the future of work and also with the current state of the Swiss labor market, the Swiss workforce as it stands, and why we think it's incredibly important to invest in lifelong learning. And then the next chapter, if you will, is of course the what. That's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. It's where I will talk about Boost and other projects that we are pursuing at Digital Switzerland that really engage with lifelong learning in a practical sense. And then in the end, just to give you a little bit of an outlook, also the question, now what? What's next? What should we think about towards the future going forward? So let's start with the who. Who is what is rather Digital Switzerland? Who are we? Digital Switzerland is a Swiss-wide digital transformation initiative. It is a countrywide association with about 240 plus members and partners. We are a nonprofit association. We represent members and partners from the very small to the very big. So from SMEs to large corporates. We also have institutional members like cities, universities, and other public entities that are also part of our association. The association itself is actually split into two sections. One is the association itself, and then there's the foundation. That is where all the public entities are placed. Those are two different bodies, but we, on the outside, we act as one, as Digital Switzerland. We have about 25 plus national initiatives ranging from a broad range of topics, tackling everything from cybersecurity to networking to education to startups. You will see that in the following slides a bit more in detail. And we have about 1,000 top executives in our network that engage with us in many different levels. We are hosting events where we have the opportunity to network with each other. The experts and top executives also engage on the topics that we are pursuing. We benefit from their expertise, and we are in very close contact with our members through them. As you can see on the map, we are currently located in different parts of the country. We are in Zurich, we're in Bern, we're in Lausanne, and in Lucerne, central Switzerland, but we want to expand. And we are in Ticino as well, but we want to expand as well to the Biel region, northwest Switzerland, and eastern Switzerland as well. Now, within Digital Switzerland, the topic that I'm working on is education and skilled workforce. And just to see how that is structured, if you look at the very top, our 240 plus members, they guide us, they give us the direction. The executive committee represents those members. The president, the managing director, they are the executive decision makers. And then we have the Education and Skilled Workforce Committee, which is a committee of experts that we liaise with on a regular basis. We have 2 active working groups as well. So we are really glad to be benefiting from that network that Digital Switzerland provides. And then on the very bottom here, we have the operational team, which consists of Katrin Torria. She's the director of the education portfolio, and myself, I'm a project manager, and I am occupied in several projects, and one of them being the Boost program, which I will later elaborate on a bit more. Maybe a word or two on my background. I am a political scientist by training. I have some experience in international affairs as well. And recently, before joining Digital Switzerland, I worked for UBS, for the UBSY think tank, where I was focused on future research, thinking about the future, creating future scenarios, and looking into how the present can adapt to accommodate the future. So, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of different fields of activity, education skilled workforce being one of them. And if you look at the left, within education and skilled workforce, there are 4 main pillars of activity, and one of them being lifelong learning. The others are the promotion of STEM subjects in school, STEM professions for young people. Then we support ICT vocational training. So we are a supporter of the organization that actually takes care of creating and maintaining the vocational training system for ICT in Switzerland. And we have a cause that we support transversally in all our projects, and that is diversity. And that is in every project a main priority for us. Now let's move over from the who to the why. Why are we engaged in lifelong learning? If you look at this slide, you can see our theory of change, if you will. It's kind of like a clockwork of different strategic levers that we have identified. And I already spoke to you about the pillars that we're engaged in. So on the very left, again, we have STEM, the promotion of STEM. You can also think of this like in a timeline of a person's development. At the very left, we start at youth age in schools when young people have to make decisions about their future. That's where we want to set the foundation for a digitally literate and skilled workforce. So that's why STEM promotion is highly important there. Then, of course, we want to increase the number of ICT apprenticeships. And then going into the professional life, we increase relevant lifelong learning for a diverse digitally literate workforce. And we also leverage the power of and the impact of female networks in Switzerland, such as Women in Digital Switzerland, that we are gathering here today. All with the goal of combating the net skills shortage in ICT of 2028. That's the latest figure that we have, and that is a concerning 35,800 specialists in ICT that will be missing by that time. And the overarching goal of all our projects is to diminish that number and to also diminish the effects that this net skills workforce shortage has on the economy. So why lifelong learning? Essentially, there are 3 main reasons why we engage in it and why programs like Boost exist. For one, we identify that there's still a lack of investment and also a lack of a sense of urgency within the Swiss economy when it comes to lifelong learning. It's still not fully established that this is an essential part of everyone's professional development and professional life. There are also a lot of untapped potentials that need to be explored and need to be fostered. That's another reason. And thirdly, there are societal trends or societal phenomena that we see that can make you a little worried, and that for which lifelong learning is a good antidote, if you will. I'm going to look into those 3 reasons a bit more in detail. So first, the lack of investment and urgency. It really breaks down into 3 sub-problems, if you will. For one, there's a lack of investment in terms of money and time. There's an interesting number from the study by Avenir Swiss on lifelong learning from last year. And it's a shocking number, really. It says that within all of the personnel expenditures in Switzerland, in companies in Switzerland, only 0.8% is going to lifelong learning. And the same goes for time as well. So all the time, all the work time combined, only 0.8% of that is dedicated to lifelong learning. So there's still a lot of room for improvement there. There's also this so-called skills shortage paradox. This is perhaps not an empirical fact, but it's an anecdotal truth to us, which is that there's a lot of awareness about the skills shortage. and there's a lot of concern as well, but there's a lack of action. There's a lot of concern of it, but not the appropriate response from the side of employers. And of course, it ties into fact number one, that there's obviously a lack of investment there. And then thirdly, there's also the rankings. The rankings where Switzerland performs usually very well. For example, in the IMD ranking, the latest one, we are top ranked for competitiveness and innovation. However, those rankings also can give you a kind of a false sense of security sometimes, because if you break it down, you see that a lot of the strength of Switzerland also comes from areas that are traditionally more related to our history and our politics. For example, the stable nature of our system, the predictability. These are also factors that go into it and have nothing really to do with the digital skills and the digital environment that Switzerland can provide to companies and to investors. There's still, for example, possibilities for improvement when it comes to B2C. B2C in Switzerland in terms of the digital economy is not yet very developed. And there's also other factors such as the digital skill level of the general population, something I will talk to you in a moment about. Generally, you could summarize the question about the lack of investment and urgency with the question, can I afford to upskill my employees, or rather, can I afford not to? I'm seeing a comment on Zoom. Will there be a Q&A? Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, of course, at the end, we will have time for a discussion, which I also highly encourage. I'm looking forward to your opinions and your questions. Going forward to the second reason why we engage in lifelong learning, the untapped potentials. Three of those stand out to us. It's one, the still really, really low percentage of women in ICT. Depending on the statistic you consult, it's somewhere between 12 and 18% for professionals in ICT. And for apprentices, it's below 10%, in the 9 to 10% range. So that's still very low, and there's a great potential here to increase this number, and that, of course, dramatically has an effect on the skills shortage that we're so concerned about. There's also interesting potential in the area of career changers, and that's something that the Boost program also can sort of reflect when we go there, when we see who applies and what courses they apply for. Career changers are a huge factor in ICT in Switzerland. 2/3 of all ICT professionals have originally studied or learned another profession and have switched over to ICT. So you see there's a great readiness to change your career, and there's potentially a great pool of people who are thinking about it, but not yet have the resources to do it. And of course, lifelong learning is the tool to achieve that. Senior professionals are another segment of the workforce that are really important. At the moment, senior professionals tend to retire fairly early in ICT. If you look at the segment of 58 to 70-year-olds, the average age is about 61, but the spread is 58 to 70. So 61 is very close to 58, meaning there's a lot of senior professionals who retire early. In order to alleviate the skills shortage, though, we have to find ways to make it attractive for those professionals to stay on longer. And of course, lifelong learning, again, comes into the fold. Being able to upskill yourself, being able to keep up with the latest trends, or being able to also help your own role change as your role changes with the years that you've been working in a company, accompanying that with the fitting courses, the fitting program is crucial. Finally, there's another reason why lifelong learning for Digital Switzerland is key, and that is if we zoom out a little bit and look at society as a whole, there are certain phenomena that are a bit concerning. One is that, again, this is from the Avenir Swiss study from last year on lifelong learning. There's a certain lifelong learning gap that can be observed. And that gap is primarily due to the level of education that can be, the level of education is a good predictor of whether someone will engage in lifelong learning in their career or not. In short, whoever already is highly qualified, has a lot of qualifications, tends to increase and tends to learn more, to engage more in lifelong learning, whereas those who do not have high qualifications, who are less qualified, they tend to not engage in lifelong learning very much. So that is really a gap that's widening, and that is certainly concerning. There's also a study by the Federal Office for Statistics, which shows that the digital skill level in Switzerland is fairly average. We're not excelling there. We are sort of in the European middle when it comes to digital skills. Nordic countries, for example, surpass us here. And for example, there's a lot of social media use in Switzerland, but also a lot of accounts that get hacked more than in other countries. There's really also with the youth a level of skill, of digital readiness and digital skill that is not very encouraging, where we have to do more about it. Where also perhaps the perception and the reality are a bit different. And finally, another reason is that lifelong learning matters because the education reforms that would transform sort of the fundamentals of our economy, those take very long. And that's, of course, given the nature of our federalistic education system, that is just a fact. And therefore, it's key to keep learning also later in the job. And we can not only wait for the education system to be digitally transformed. Now, this is sort of what we have today, or what we know is the case today, and which will have future implications. But I'd also like to look a little bit further ahead into the future, and maybe also give a bit of a more positive side to it all, because a lot of these things, these numbers are a bit a reason for concern, but not only. I mean, if we look at for example, the future skills, the skills of the future, there's of course a lot of different sources that you can pull up to see what the skills of the future will be. Here it's the World Economic Forum, for example, top 10 skills of 2025. What I find interesting here is that when we talk about the future skills that will be necessary, it's not only the digital hard skills that matter. I don't know if you can see it, it's a bit small, but there's a lot of analytical thinking, there's problem solving, there's teamwork, there's personal development. So in essence, my mind, my tools, my personality, and my team, they all matter for the future. And that might be inspiring, at least for me, that is. Then we also talk a lot about the future of work. And for example, there's a lot of talk about hybrid working. Are we going to go back fully to the office? Are we going to stay at home? Is it something in between? I find it more interesting to think about what our children will be working for, and what they will be working at. And for that, I found this rather inspiring quote by the philosopher David Precht, who said that we live in a society where 60 or 70% of the jobs that our children will have haven't been invented yet. And when we look at our colleagues and our companies, often more than one person is actively managing social media, is working on social media. There's a social media manager, which is a well-established job by now, but only maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago, this was still far away. And social media was seen as something that was, sort of for the kids, and companies hadn't yet caught on to it. And that, of course, has changed dramatically. So the same will happen with the generation of our kids as well. It's going to be exciting to see what they will work on. And finally, future learning. So how will we learn in the future? How can we stay afloat with all that change? We made a small survey on LinkedIn where we asked participants who they think was responsible for lifelong learning in the country, in their company. So who in your company it should tell you, should give you directions on what to learn, what to study, how to stay ahead of the curve. And you can see that the vast majority answered it's you, the individual. So it's really on us, each and every one of us, to take that up. And that means we need to be proactive, we need to be disciplined, and we need to be curious. Of course, that's all qualities that we can nurture in ourselves. But the question is, of course, and that's why Digital Switzerland works towards improving that, is do we have the time? Do we have the money? And also, do we have the right offers? Do we have the right structures to really succeed in lifelong learning? Now, I'd like to move over to what we're doing. So I've now elaborated a little bit on why it's important, different reasons, many different reasons for that. And now I'd like to show you what Digital Switzerland's answer is to that state of affairs that I've just described. And of course, the main focus should be the Boost program, which is what interests you and should interest you because it's a really interesting and good program to look into. The Boost program has a very simple purpose. It's to provide financial support for the digital upskilling of the Swiss workforce, especially given the radical transformations that we're seeing with digitalization and with also the Corona crisis that accelerated that. It also should give an incentive for employees and for employers as well to really integrate lifelong learning as a key pillar of their strategy, be it your professional development strategy or your strategy as an employer. The history of the Boost program is tied to the Corona crisis that I just mentioned. It was launched in 2020 by Digital Switzerland with the support of the Gebert Rüff Foundation and the Hirschman Foundation, and is currently being financed by UBS for the cycle of 2021 to 2022. So we're still running, active, and always open for applications. More on that just in a second. First, let me explain briefly how it works. It's quite simple. You can apply to the Boost program either as an individual or as a team. So let's say you are an individual who would like to aim for promotion and you would like to upskill yourself in order to get that promotion. You look for a course, you find something that fits you, that suits you well, that will get you ahead. Then you can apply to the Boost program, indicate that course that you're interested in, submit your application, and then we will take a look at it. The same goes for a team. If you are a team leader and you identify a certain need in your team for upskilling, and you find a course that fits your team, that will bring everyone in your team ahead, then you apply as a team leader and you take your entire team with you and submit an application, and we will take a look. What do we pay? We pay 50% of your digital upskilling course costs with a maximum of 1,000. That is if you're an individual applicant. If you are a team, we pay up to 8,000 francs, and the maximum size of the team can be 20 people. So we really encourage teams to apply. It makes sense from a financial standpoint. It's a good boost, and it also showcases that the employer, not just the individual, but the employer, the entire team, is committed to lifelong learning. There's a couple criteria that need to be fulfilled. The whole criteria list can be found on our website, which I will show you later. But key is that it's a digital upskilling course, that it shows that it's a course that has a digital skill component or that helps you succeed in the digital transformation. The applicants need to be employed. They can be self-employed as well, but they have to be employed. And the course needs to be in a cash out format. So the course needs to be provided by an external provider. We do not support courses that are offered within a company, sort of by an internal consultant, for example, or internal trainers. So we always pay when there's a cash out process. The target audience, all employees in Switzerland, with a specific focus on SMEs, particularly SMEs who are not yet fully digitalized, who may have also struggled within the last 2 years because of the digital acceleration and Corona. We're very keen on supporting those SMEs, but generally speaking, all employees are eligible, including the self-employed, as I just mentioned. I want to give you a couple of insights and statistics as well from the program. So far, since its launch, it's supported 180 individuals, and the average amount of support is 700. You see, so 1,000 is the maximum for an individual, 700 is the average. 60% of applicants are women. That is for the 2021-2022 cycle, where UBS is our partner. So that's a very encouraging number. And I hope that in the future months that we will be running the program, this number will stay the same. A couple of the most popular courses are digital marketing, social media marketing, UX UI design, and data science. As I just mentioned before, social media marketing, a job that had to be invented, if you will, and was of course extremely necessary to be invented. So just thinking back to the future of work, it also reflects here in the Boost program that this is in fact the reality. Promotional activities are something that we do regularly. For example, like here, again, very thankful to be able to speak about Boost with all like-minded organizations and partners. We also have specific co-promotion agreements with providers of digital upskilling courses. I've listed some of them here. And that's the most important. That's also my call to you is word to mouth. It's the best way to learn about it is when you can recommend it to friends and colleagues. It shows that is really the most effective way. Because of course, also as a person, from a personal experience, you have the kind of the validation, you know, that this works and that it's a good thing. Now, we also have some other programs as well that I just want to briefly showcase to you. I mentioned before all the structural issues that we're facing when we talk about lifelong learning. And so our answer to that is that we have launched the Digital Switzerland HR community. It's a network of HR leaders and experts from our member base. So this is a program that is reserved for our members. So the head of HR, educational experts, they participate in that community. And you can see the priority topics are exactly those that I mentioned before. We want to close the learning gaps. We want to improve the quality and number of ICT apprenticeships. Gender and age diversity are key topics, career changes, and also work on that sense of urgency that's still lacking and that we want to highlight more. So we share best practices. That's how we work. We share best practices. We promote model companies who've done something in a pioneer fashion, who are the first to do something. That's something we look forward to. We also would like to launch joint campaigns, so different members can get together and say, we want to work on this. We want to work on career changes. We want to work on diversity. And finally, we also want to provide tools and research for our members. So if you're interested in working deeper on these subjects with us, contact us and we can look how we can work together and whether membership is a good option for you. Always open to discuss this. The Education Skilled Workforce team is not the only team that works on these subjects. We are very glad that our amazing colleagues from the Swiss Digital Day have also engaged in upskilling, reskilling, and education. For example, last year during the Digital Day, there were 300 plus learning labs, which were 45-minute labs where you could, for free, enjoy all kinds of courses related to digital skills. And also our members were very committed to upskill their own employees. We had the upskilling commitment last year where 44 members committed 4 hours of upskilling for their employees, and we recognized them during Digital Day for that. Now, finally, after who, why, and what, we also should think of now what, right? Now what do we do with all this information? Aside from the specific projects and the possibilities for Boost, I just would like to give you a couple of thoughts for later, perhaps looking to the future, right? What can we expect? There's it's really difficult to say anything about the future, especially in these days where the volatility seems to be so extreme that you don't know what happens tomorrow. But still, I would say two things are fairly clear. We will most likely see more digitalization across all professions, even as so far as ICT becoming even a transversal industry. So many ICT professionals who work in different industries outside of ICT, the big corporates in Switzerland having employing many thousands of ICT professionals themselves. And secondly, accordingly, of course, continuous growth in demand for ICT specialists. Sort of that's like what we can expect. That's what we know. But I think when we talk about the future, it's also always key to ask, what do we want, right? What is desirable for the future? And I think here are 4 things that come to mind that are really desirable and that we should work towards. One is establishing a learning culture in the sense that it's not just a norm for employees to actively engage in lifelong learning, but also for companies to really make it part of their strategy, to make it a differentiating aspect of their strategy, to become attractive for lifelong learning, and to this way also to become more, just more profitable perhaps even, or at least more attractive vis-a-vis the competition. That would be incredibly cool if lifelong learning became such an integral part of a company strategy. And then a digital mindset for all, very much related to it, and also related to the future skills that I highlighted a moment ago from World Economic Forum. I think it's important that we all have a digital mindset, and we don't just think of it as having to be able to program and to really do the in-depth technical skills, but to think of digital skills in a more broader sense, to be able to navigate the digital world in short. And with that, of course, inclusivity, right? It's, I think, absolutely critical, especially given the speed of the digital transformation, that no one is left behind. So the lifelong learning gap I mentioned, the gender gaps I mentioned, those are absolutely critical. No digital transformation without inclusivity, full stop. And then finally, proactivity and also a sense of hope, right? If you can navigate the digital world, if you don't see digitalization only as a threat, but also as an opportunity, and engage proactively with it, the future becomes a lot more hopeful. And through that, it's a whole different game. Instead of having to react to digital transformation, you can shape it. And I think with lifelong learning, that is certainly the first step that you can take for this. Yes, with that, I'm at the end of my presentation. I've noted here my email address if you would like to get into contact with me regarding any of the projects that I mentioned. And also, of course, to apply for the Boost program, visit lifelonglearning.ch/boost. There you can apply. And yeah, with that, I would be glad to discuss.
Thank you, Mattia, for this great presentation and opportunity. I think it's wonderful. I think there were a few questions maybe in the chat. Maybe you can start with those, or whoever posted them, maybe you can ask them live.
Yeah, East Switzerland. No, it will be. So regionalization is a big strategic goal for us. We want to be specific for each region to take everyone's priorities into account, but it will be not, let's say, a region-specific office that only works with partners from there. It will be still a national representation of the whole organization. And I will have to take a look where it will be. I think it could be St. Gallen, but I'm not sure. Then we have one about ICT. Yes, ICT or IT, exactly. Yeah, that is correct. So that's the question. ICT means information and communications technology. That is correct. Yeah. Then statistics, are they based on employer expenditure or also individual-based investment? That's employer expenditure. It's the personnel expenditures. And then the Q&A, yes, there will be. We're doing it right now.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions? Feel free to turn on your microphone and video.
I'm also happy to show you the lifelong learning page. I can share my screen and show you how to apply, just to know where you would have to go in case.
I just have a question, like how many applicants do you receive, and are there, do you accept most people, or how difficult is it to get this scholarship?
So we get, we have supported 180, and we are, we accept most because a lot of people have very good reason for the course that they want to take, and it's also really different from each company, from each person, what the digital skill is that they need, and it can be anything from really very in-depth programming to learning about Microsoft applications. So the range is very broad, and we always look at the context of the application. And if we deny an application, it's yes, either if there's really no connection to digitalization whatsoever, that can happen. That's a bit of a mishap then in that case, or if other key conditions are not fulfilled, like the person is not employed, or for example, the course is not in a cash out format. So it's an internal course that doesn't have a bill attached to it, if you will.
Okay, great. Well, yes, if you can share the website page would be great.
Yes, I will do that.
Seems we don't have too many questions.
I'm sorry, I was muted again. It happens by default. So.
And you were on the German page.
That's right, yes. Let me go to English, but you can see the screen. Okay, so maybe I'll go to the homepage first. So the homepage that we have for lifelong learning, so we have our separate homepage for that program, for everything to do with lifelong learning. And here you can see as the first pop-up, it's the Boost program, apply now for co-financing for digital training. And if you click on it, you see the description, the partners that we work with. We also have here a link to this page, weiterbildung.swiss, which is a platform that gives you a good overview over digital upskilling courses. However, it's not limited to those courses. We accept any courses that fit, that make sense. It's just a suggestion for a first orientation if you need that. And then the two ways of applying, individuals and employers. Those buttons lead in both cases to a Google form where you have to answer a couple of questions like what industry you're in, what the course is, the link, the costs, all the stuff that we need for our statistics. And then in the end, you send it off, and then it will be treated by me or some of the colleagues, and we will get back to you within about 2 weeks' time. Given the applications rolling in on a rolling basis, it takes a bit of time, but we will get back to you. The criteria are listed below. Here's the full list of criteria. The most important I just mentioned already, cash out, you have to be employed, And perhaps, yes, another important point is also here. You have to have a Swiss bank account for us to transfer the funds. Actually, I'm not sure if I mentioned the point that we will pay out the first half after you're enrolled, and the second half when you successfully finish your program. That's perhaps something worth mentioning as well.
May I just ask something
Yes.
about the learning program? What I mean by that, the team, the professionals. So are they former, are they certified, or are they former employee of a digital company? Or can you tell us a bit more about that? I'm sure I can find something on the website, but I just, well, been on the website, so I haven't had time to go a bit more inside.
Mm-hmm. I didn't hear the first part of the question about the team.
Yes. Yeah, the team. What I mean, the teachers or the people who are actually going to give us these classes or these seminars, or I don't know how you call that. So if you can maybe tell us a bit more about them.
Okay. No, so we don't offer any courses ourselves. We only provide the financial support. You can choose what upskilling course interests you and benefits you, and then you include that in your application. You indicate what you would like to study, and we judge whether we can support it or not based on our criteria. But we don't teach ourselves. We administer the funds for financial support.
Okay.
There's a question from Charlotte in the chat about why unemployed people, for example, could not benefit from this.
Yes,
what the rationale is.
Yeah, the rationale is to really focus on the workforce that's currently working to provide incentives to engage in lifelong learning as you're already on the job. And also for unemployed people, there are mechanisms from the city administration and cantonal administration that provide funds for that specific need.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions? Or comments? There's a few thank yous to you, Mattia.
Yeah, thank you very
in the
much
chat.
for your attention, and looking forward to seeing maybe some applications or getting in touch with you on a one-by-one.
Sounds great. Well, I guess it sounds like there are no more questions, but I wish everybody a bon appetit, I guess, since this is lunchtime. And thank you again, Mattia, for your presentation.